Hello y'all, it's the Garden Wizard. Poinsettias are an iconic plant that we see around during the holiday season. We associate the beautiful Christmas colors of red and green with this beautiful plant. And as a bonus, they even bloom like this too around this time. In this video, we're going to go over how to keep your poinsettia alive, not just during the holidays, but all year round as well. The first thing we're going to go over is the sun requirements. And that really does depend on whether or not your poinsettia is indoors or outdoors at the moment. If your poinsettia is indoors, then I recommend putting it at a full sun location, particularly at a southeast facing window if you have one, so they can receive as much light as possible. However, if your poinsettia is outdoors, then I recommend putting it in a shady spot during the afternoon, because what ends up happening is you have so much heat and sun that ends up happening with this poinsettia, the little beautiful red spots start to fade. The next thing we're going to go over is temperature. I'm going to help you understand this by telling you where they came from. Poinsettias come from mountains in Mexico and Guatemala where temperatures are usually mild, around 60 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit, which is what they prefer. So it's not too cold or too hot there usually. Because of that, poinsettias can suffer from huge temperature shifts in either direction. However, they like hot temperatures way better than cold temperatures, so it's best not to expose them to temperatures below 50 degrees Fahrenheit. They can survive temperatures below that as long as no freezing temperatures or frost gets to them, but they won't do well. Poinsettias also like a modest humidity of 40 to 50%, which during the winter, you can put your poinsettias around other plants to promote a microclimate of higher humidity. The third thing we're going to go over today is pruning. I actually wanted to get to this section later in this video, but something really ridiculous happened. Of 40 to 50%, so that happened. How fun. But something controversial that I'm going to say that might actually shock you is I actually do not prune my poinsettias. Except when it's like something like this, where a bunch of branches have been broken off. It's like, oh, I need to clip those off. This is because I like how poinsettias look in the wild. Their upward growth, the curly stems, how tall they are, which they can get 13 feet tall. They're literally medium-sized trees. And the amount of flowers that can get on them, whew! I want my poinsettia to look like that. I'll look up what they look like because these pictures don't give an entire view of the plant, but they're awesome. I'd like to note, however, that the pruning can be beneficial to help it branch out or keep it in the shape you want it to be if you like it that way. And it can also keep the plant from overcrowding itself, which can make it susceptible to pests and diseases. If you are pruning them, wait until all the flowers and bracts have fallen off. If you want your poinsettia to be compact, prune it like this in this image. Make sure to not cut it too short, use sterilized scissors to avoid diseases for the plant, and to cut at a 45-degree angle. If you want it to be tall, cut it like this image. Make sure to do the stuff I just said, but make sure to not cut those lower stems all the way to the trunk. This is to avoid damage to the trunk. Don't mind me as I prune my poinsettia. The next thing we're going to go over is watering. What you'll want to do first is probably remove the wrapping paper from the poinsettia. This is due to the fact that what ends up happening is when you water it, it gets all inside the wrapping paper and the water just stays there. It can't evaporate. So that'll end up causing soggy soil, which will ultimately kill the plant from overwatering. So yeah, you'll basically want to remove that. But with that gone, you need something to keep the water, standing so, it doesn't drip all over your floor in your house. So I'm going to get a tray right here and put it like that. Poinsettias like a little bit of moist soil. They don't exactly want like soggy soil like I've just mentioned. They like a little bit of moist soil to keep them hydrated. Too dry of soil will definitely cause them to lose leaves. So I recommend watering your poinsettia when the top 1 to 2 inches of soil is dry. And also something else I'd like to mention is humidity can play a kind of a bigger role in this, as the lower the humidity, the more often you're gonna have to water your poinsettia. So look out for that. Now I'm gonna show you how to water it. What you'll want to do is water deeply until you see water coming out of the drainage holes. Leave it in there for a couple minutes and get the tray from underneath the poinsettia and give it to some plants. The fifth thing we're going to go over today is fertilizer. You should probably not fertilize your poinsettia during the winter due to the fact that if you do, it will probably cause excess growth to appear, overshadowing the beautiful flowers and bracts. And you should also not fertilize 1 to 2 months after you get your poinsettia, mainly due to the fact that you want the fertilizer that's already in the soil to work. This goes for repotting it as well when you give it new soil. You might have heard me say the word bract. Bracts are the modified leaves that are on a poinsettia that are used to attract pollinators. Contrary to popular belief, these red spots are actually not the petals. They are the bracts. And the little center, let's see, you might not be able to see it. It's kind of strange, but hopefully you can see it. The little brown spots, they used to be yellow. They're actually the flowers, which is actually pretty crazy. I hope you find that interesting because I certainly did. Another thing I'd like to say is that you can probably start fertilizing once the flowers and bracts are falling off, and then you can continue all the way up until the bracts and flowers show up again the next season. Another thing I'd like to say is that you can use an all-purpose fertilizer and just use the directions as needed. Just make sure not to over-fertilize. The sixth thing we're going to talk about today is repotting. I recommend not repotting your poinsettia until after it's been pruned by a couple weeks, so that when it is pruned, it already has stress. So we really want to make sure that it's settled in before we stress it even more with getting it repotted. I would repot anyway if you happen to have bad soil or no drainage holes on the pot, or the poinsettia has outgrown the pot entirely, which will be a lot better than keeping it in terrible conditions. When you are repotting, I recommend getting a pot that is at least 2 inches or more in diameter, bigger than the last pot, so that the poinsettia's roots can spread out further. And when you are putting it in, just put it like a normal all-purpose potting mix. Like, that'll do the job, nothing fancy. One last thing I'd like to mention in this segment is that you'll probably just need to repot it every 1 to 2 years, depending on how much it's grown, the quality of the soil, etc. Now we're getting to the fun part. There are actually specific conditions that your poinsettia must meet in order for it to rebloom. Some particular types of orchids and Christmas cacti have similar conditions they must meet as well. It is called photoperiodism. In Mexico, poinsettias react to the lessening of days by blooming. This makes them short day plants. While people have had their poinsettias rebloom without any help, which includes mine, which likely is due to the fact that mine stays outdoors or in the greenhouse during the summer, fall, winter, and parts of spring, so it sees the lessening of days. However, you should probably follow these guidelines to get your poinsettias to rebloom, just in case. What you'll want to do is, starting in late September or early October, you should put your poinsettia in a dark enclosed space for 12 to 15 hours, or more easier, get like a giant pot or a blanket and put it on top of your poinsettia. People have claimed actually that any light that gets into your poinsettia during this time will actually cause it to not bloom. The last thing we're going to talk about today is picking out the best poinsettia. You might think that I should have done this at the beginning of the video, but most people probably already have their poinsettias, so I'm leaving it here for people who have not done it yet. First of all, I'd like to mention that poinsettias are actually not that toxic. In fact, you would have to eat a lot of them in order for you to get sick, and that includes your pets too, but just be cautious if your pet eats some. They're in the family Euphorbiaceae, which includes the African milk cactus, and poinsettias I think are like one of the least toxic in their family. So just be careful with your poinsettia and any other plant in the Euphorbiaceae family. To pick out the best poinsettia, make sure that the bracts on the poinsettia are in full color and not green in any way. This may shorten the lifespan of the bracts. Next, make sure that your poinsettia is not in a cold, drafty environment, as that may shorten its lifespan and it will suffer because of it, because it is not used to those conditions. Third, if your poinsettia is in a wrapper, keep it. And also, you might want to ask for like an extra grocery bag or something like that to put on top of the poinsettia to protect it from the cold on the ride home. Fourth, you want to make sure that the poinsettia's actual flowers, which are located in the center of the bracts on yellow structures called cyathea, make sure that they're not loose, weak, or falling off. Lastly, you want to make sure that your poinsettia is bushy and its leaves are not wilting, discolored, or damaged. I mean, who wants that? If you follow these tips, you're going to probably get a really good and healthy poinsettia. One last thing I'd like to mention is that I hope this video was high quality. I've been trying to up my game on that. Please check out the Poinsettia playlist for more information on caring for your poinsettia. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this helped you know how to care for your poinsettia, and if it did, please consider subscribing, liking, and ringing that notification bell so you won't miss out when I upload new content. Again, thanks for watching. Goodbye.